Fresh out of college, I moved back to my parents' place, enjoying free food for about 9 months. Before I had to head out for graduate school in another state, my parents were cool, giving me my own space in their house. But as a 22-year-old single guy living in a rural area, about 40 miles south of a major Midwest city, it wasn't the ideal setup. I didn't have many options, so I began hunting for work to fill time and save some cash. Summer turned to winter, and I still hadn't landed a solid job. Desperate for some independence, I took a part-time gig doing light bookkeeping for a family friend's small business. It wasn't what I wanted, but it paid under the table, and opportunities were scarce in that remote area. The job involved managing rental farms for equipment, like bobcats and drills, housed in an old building that sat on a hill, once an old country bar. I had flexibility with my hours, often staying late into the night to enjoy the solitude, blasting music while working. One snowy winter night, I was at the office past midnight, engrossed in my work. When I glanced outside, I spotted a large imprint in the fresh snow beneath the light, a human-made snow angel. Not from a kid, but from a substantial figure. It was eerie, considering the remote location. Feeling uneasy, I locked up at 2 a.m. But upon realizing my boss would arrive soon and possibly think I'd made the snow angel, I quickly undid the lock, disguised the imprint, and relocked the gate. It might seem odd, but I was young and self-conscious about being judged by my boss and colleagues. As I was about to leave, I heard mocking laughter emanating from the nearby woods. It felt deliberate, like someone was purposely trying to spook me. Despite my initial fear, I rationalized it as potentially an animal or an odd local messing around. The incident left me shaken. Spending the night trying to make sense of it, I discussed it with my parents, considering whether it was my imagination or something more sinister. I continued working there for weeks, always cautious, locking up and being aware of my surroundings. Looking back, the unsettling part wasn't just the scare, it was the audacity of whoever tried to frighten me. They waited for hours just to laugh and didn't seem concerned about the consequences. It's likely a funny story for them, but for me, it remains an eerie memory of the mysterious figure in the snow. The experience lingered in my thoughts long after I left that job and moved on with my life. I never encountered anything similar again, but the memory of that snowy night stayed with me. Over time, I chalked it up to an oddity, a bizarre encounter in an isolated place. I never did figure out who or what was behind the snow angel and the eerie laughter in the woods. It remained a mystery, a story that seemed almost surreal when I recounted it to friends. Years passed, and as I reflected on that peculiar incident, I realized it was a reminder of life's unpredictability. Sometimes, inexplicable things happen, and they leave a lasting impression. That snowy night served as a lesson in resilience, teaching me to navigate the unknown and find strength in moments of uncertainty. Though I may never unravel the true identity of the enigmatic figure behind the snow angel and laughter, it became a curious part of my past, a tale that added a touch of intrigue to my life's narrative, a memory that shaped my perception of the inexplicable. I'm not driving for Lyft anymore. Instead, I'm working my way through trade school. I've had my fair share of horror stories from driving for similar companies, but those tales can wait for another time. Let's rewind to Christmas Eve of 2020. I was out driving for Lyft before heading to my mom's place with my wife and our new baby. Just an ordinary night, or so I thought. I got a ride request from a lower-income apartment complex. Nothing out of the ordinary. Upon arrival, I found my passenger with several boxes of belongings. My car's not huge, a 2006 Chevy Impala, but we managed to cram all of his stuff in. During the ride, he was in tears, explaining that he caught his girlfriend cheating and couldn't stay there, as the lease was in her name. So, I was taking him to a nearby hotel. Now, this part of town wasn't the safest, a street notorious for vices, shady motels, and a rough crowd. He asked me to wait while he checked in and got his key. I'll admit, I bend the rules a bit for safety, have a concealed gun under my driver's seat for protection. It's necessary, given my experiences driving for these apps, facing threats and dangerous situations. The motel was on that sketchy street. Homeless people dotted the area, and I even spotted someone passed out with a needle in their arm. Being a fan of true crime and horror, I was on edge. I helped the guy unload his stuff, making trips back and forth to his room. During one trip, I witnessed a guy emerge from a nearby room with two women. They went to the room next to mine, one of the ladies knocking and barging in. That's when I saw the guy pull out a shotgun from under his coat and storm into the room with the ladies. Chaos ensued, yelling, shouting. I feared gunshots out of the blue. My passenger appeared behind me, insisting he'd handle it, wished me a Merry Christmas, and slipped extra cash into my pocket. I was frozen, realizing what might be happening. I needed to get out or at least reach my hidden gun. They saw me, knew I saw the gun, so I had to leave no witnesses. I got in my car and sped off, then called the cops, recounting every detail. I logged out of Lyft, feeling done for the night. Later, the cops investigated, but the suspects vanished. The room's occupants denied anything happening and accused me of lying. But I know what I saw was real. Despite the police investigation and my detailed report, the incident on that Christmas Eve remained unresolved. The suspects vanished, and the room's occupants denied any wrongdoing, brushing off my account as falsehoods. It was frustrating, knowing what I witnessed, yet encountering disbelief and resistance. After that unnerving experience, I made a decision to step away from driving for ride-sharing apps. The dangers and uncertainties outweighed the flexibility and earnings. It was a stark reminder of the risks inherent in such a job, a reality I couldn't overlook anymore. The event lingered in my mind, a jarring memory that made me reconsider my priorities. I focused on my trade school studies, determined to carve a more secure and stable path for myself and my family. That night became a catalyst for change, prompting me to reevaluate my choices and prioritize safety over the gig economy's allure. I never found out what transpired after I left the scene that night, nor did I ever drive for those apps again. Instead, I directed my efforts towards completing my education, pursuing a career that didn't entail such precarious encounters. The Christmas Eve incident served as a turning point, a realization that sometimes prioritizing personal safety and peace of mind is more important than any job or financial gain. It's a chapter in my life I'm glad to have left behind, leading me towards a more secure and fulfilling future. A few years back, when I was living in upstate New York, I had a seriously spooky experience. Winters there meant heavy snowfall, and on one such snowy night, I found myself alone at home, about a mile away from the nearest house, with my roommate out. Being by myself always made me uneasy, given my hyperactive imagination. It was around 9 or 10 p.m., and I was watching TV when I heard this distinct crunch outside, like someone stepping on ice. Instantly, my nerves kicked in, my mind racing through every possibility. It couldn't have been my roommate. There was no car pulling up. The crunching sounds grew louder, sending shivers down my spine. I dashed to my room, locked the door, and grabbed my shotgun. Phone ready to dial 911. I know it might sound excessive, but imagine, it was late, snowing heavily, and I was isolated. The footsteps ceased at some point, and eventually, I fell asleep in my guarded state. When I woke, my roommate had returned. I ventured outside, curious, and stumbled upon something chilling. Footprints in the snow emerged from the woods, encircling my house. Most were filled in, making it hard to track. But the scariest part, the footprints stopped right outside my bedroom window. Fresh, distinct, as if someone had lingered there throughout the night, while the snow ceased in the early morning. The mere thought of someone in those woods, let alone standing outside my window, continues to send shivers down my spine. It's a memory that still haunts me. I eventually moved out of that house a few months later, unable to shake off the eerie feeling that lingered. The mystery of who or what was lurking in those woods remains an unsettling enigma in my mind. That unsettling incident from my time in upstate New York lingered like an unresolved mystery, despite moving away from that house. The thought of those footprints surrounding my home haunted me. The unanswered questions about who could have been wandering in those woods and standing outside my window in the dead of a snowy night continued to unsettle me. It left me with an uneasy feeling, making me question what intentions someone might have had to loiter around my place in such a chilling manner. Over time, I came to terms with the fact that some mysteries might never be solved. I sought solace in the safety of my new surroundings. But that eerie experience left a lasting impression, a reminder to stay cautious and aware, especially when isolated in the midst of the unknown. The incident reinforced the importance of security and vigilance, urging me to trust my instincts and prioritize safety. As I moved forward, I remained vigilant, acknowledging that some mysteries might forever remain shrouded in the cold, dark silence of that wintry night. Back in January 2013, I was a 17-year-old living in Portland, Oregon. Cycling was my thing, especially in the early mornings or late nights, my mode of transport until I got my driver's license. I was used to the routes, even the shortcut through a wooded park, about 4 kilometers long, saving time despite the eerie lack of light. This one night during my senior year of high school changed everything. I had a long music rehearsal, exhausted, and it was later around 10:40 p.m. Tiredness convinced me to take that risky shortcut through the dark, empty park. Normally, during summer nights, the park had some activity, but winter painted a different picture, complete darkness and no one in sight. As I pedaled through, I stumbled upon 2 hooded guys, not wearing reflective gear, lurking ahead. They seemed menacing, and as I got closer, they pulled out large knives from their jackets. Panic surged, adrenaline kicked in. One of them started yelling curses, both charging at me with blades drawn. I pedaled furiously, spotting a path leading to a lit street. Miraculously, I escaped their pursuit, my legs pumping hard until I hit the safety of the well-lit road. The relief was immense. However, a chilling realization struck when I checked my phone. It was 11:15 p.m. Had I really spent over 20 minutes in that park? It felt shorter. Fueled by fear, I raced home, keeping this harrowing encounter to myself, knowing my parents' reaction. Days passed, and the horror of that near-fatal encounter started fading, until a shocking incident shook our neighborhood. A beloved junior from my high school was brutally stabbed and killed in a brawl at a store. He confronted 3 teens causing trouble, and the situation turned violent. Tragically, he lost his life, devastating our community. The horrifying twist: those 3 teenagers turned out to be the same guys I encountered in the park. They were just 18 but looked much older. The realization hit hard. I had narrowly escaped a fate similar to that tragic loss. It was a haunting reminder of how close I came to danger, and a stark realization of the fragility of life. It made me grateful for my instincts and athletic ability that allowed me to escape. The incident changed my perspective, making me more cautious and wary of unseen dangers lurking in the night. That terrifying encounter in the park stayed etched in my memory, a stark reminder of the thin line between safety and danger. Knowing I narrowly escaped a tragic fate, left me with mixed emotions, relief from my own safety, but deep sorrow for the loss of a young life. In our community, the realization that those menacing figures with knives could have altered my life forever haunted me. It made me more cautious, avoiding that park at night and staying vigilant in unfamiliar situations. As time passed, I learned to appreciate life's fragility and the importance of trusting instincts. It was a wake-up call to the unpredictability of the world around us. I never disclosed the connection between those hooded figures and the tragic incident. It felt like a burden of secrets I carried alone. The experience taught me to value each moment and cherish the safety and security I often took for granted. It left an indelible mark, shaping my choices and decisions thereafter, urging me to stay mindful of the shadows lurking in the night. We relocated to Connecticut this summer, before my 6th grade in 2001, settling in a beautiful rural town quite different from our New Jersey neighborhood. My sister, 2 years younger, entered 4th grade. Our close-knit old neighborhood had block parties and kids running between houses. We felt a bit sad leaving it all behind. In the first weeks, we met our neighbors, notably the family across the street. The mother often visited ours, venting about her sons or her ex-husband. It was unclear. During a class project, where kids traced their hands to make Thanksgiving turkeys listing things they were thankful for, the neighbor's son wrote disturbing things like being a loser and hating myself. During Christmas, our mom invited them over. The boys were odd, listening to Japanese techno with headphones and retreating to our basement to play video games. The younger one was stranger. His mother confided in ours about his self-harm and undiagnosed condition. We'd come home from school, telling our mom about his odd behavior. One day, I decided to greet the younger neighbor more warmly. He was muttering gibberish while drawing in the snow. When I greeted him, he replied, "I'll bomb you," making no eye contact. We informed our mom, who advised us to be cautious without elaborating. We were just kids. We didn't grasp the seriousness. Looking back, I wish we had. They attended several Christmas Eves. One year, the neighbor mom argued with my grandma about baseball teams. It was peculiar. My grandma wasn't confrontational. She was always kind to me, but our interactions felt forced. The final Christmas Eve they attended, the topic of guns arose. The neighbor mom revealed she owned guns and took her son to a shooting range, leading to a heated debate with my mom. She boasted about her son hacking high-level government security. It became a joke whenever odd things happened, blaming the young neighbor boy. Then, December 14, 2012, changed everything. I was in college. My sister was a student, and our youngest brother attended high school. We heard gunshots. Nancy Lanza, the neighbor mom, was killed. The young neighbor boy was the culprit in the Sandy Hook elementary school massacre. It was an unimaginable act of evil. And though I'm grateful we survived our proximity to him, the innocent lives lost, especially the children, still haunt me. I wish I could say that the story ended with closure, that understanding dawned, or that justice prevailed. Unfortunately, some stories lack neat conclusions. The haunting legacy of that tragic day at Sandy Hook Elementary School lives on in the memories of those lost, the survivors, and the community forever changed. Despite the unanswered questions and lingering regrets, there's solace in the resilience of those affected. They've turned their pain into action, advocating for change, pushing for better mental health support, and tirelessly working to prevent such tragedies from repeating. As for the narrator, they carry the weight of what they witnessed, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of recognizing the signs that might prevent such horrors in the future.